Hi, welcome to Brisbane. I'm Jane Morgan. I'm the Executive responsible for Equity and Diversity in the Brisbane City Council. Thank you for inviting us to your forum, and I'm sorry that I can't be there with you today. I am proud to say that Brisbane City Council has been delivering programs to attract, recruit and retain people with disabilities, and of course our other equity groups, since 1995, with the advent of our first equal employment opportunity strategy, which of course was what we used to call it back in those days. So that's 16 years of committed effort by a long series of people. And over this time we've had 4 Lord Mayors, 3 CEOs, and each of them have provided their own unique leadership and their own personal perspective to the diversity and inclusiveness agenda. As a result of our efforts, Brisbane City Council has forged a reputation as a leader in equity and diversity, and this includes the employment of people with disabilities. I think this has been borne out in the number of awards Council has received for our commitment to and performance in disability employment by both government and non-government sectors. And importantly, the higher than average representation of people with disabilities in our workforce. Just to give you a bit of a context, I think it helps given that you won't know much about the Brisbane City Council. We're about 5,000 staff, depends how you count it, but let's say about 5,000. And today we have 470 plus employees with a disability that we know of, and 33 of those are tradespeople, 95 are bus operators, 12 hold executive level positions, and 120 are in higher banded roles. We call it bands 5 to 8, and the remaining 210 are spread across our bands 2 to 4 at the lower level in salaried roles and some blue collar jobs. Now, I wish I could feel really proud of our efforts in upping our percentage of people with disabilities in council. However, I do think the bar is very low in Australia, and so we've been very disappointed in where our efforts have got us so far. Despite significant successes in all our other employment targets, we have not achieved our target for the employment of people with disabilities. In fact, the representation of people with disabilities in our workforce has decreased in the recent past. And in recognition of this, improving disability representation has been made a priority in our new Workforce Equity and Diversity Framework, which will carry us from this year through to 2015. And here it is. We're very proud of our efforts in producing this, and I'll send some copies down in case any of you would like to look at it. In addition to aiming for our employment target of 10.7%, we've also set ourselves the goal of becoming a disability confident employer. I'll tell more about that later. So where are we up to? So firstly, let's look at representation. So while our representation of people with disabilities is higher than the average government sector representation, disappointingly, it is an all-time low of 6.5% in our council at present. Like most organisations who take their responsibilities seriously here, we struggle with the validity of this data, since we know that there are considerably more employees with a disability in our workforce. One of our challenges is therefore to encourage staff in the Brisbane City Council to formally identify via our confidential equity and diversity survey. However, I am relieved to say that the senior leaders in Brisbane City Council have not allowed this lack of clarity in the data to undermine their commitment to improving our performance in this area. Secondly, we've been experimenting with a range of recruitment initiatives over many years, trying to stay open to what actually works and accepting that some things, despite sounding good, make no real difference at all. So some examples of changes we've put in place that we think do assist. With the agreement of our unions, we are able to provide access to people with disabilities to our positions at the lower banded levels in our organisations that are usually limited to people who are permanent staff in council. We also do this with people who are from an Indigenous background as well. We have established strong partnerships with external agencies who specialise in the employment of people with disabilities, and we intend to go further with that. We have a champion for disability employment in our recruitment centre. The recent woman who is our champion brings a lot of passion and commitment to that work, as have the previous champions. If people with disability meet the selection criteria at shortlisting, we now ensure that at least one candidate with a disability progresses to the next phase. Our research indicates that this has lifted the success ratio for these people to equal for all other candidates. Now, given the strong competitiveness for roles in Brisbane City Council, this is not leaping us forward in achieving our target, but it is reassuring to know that at that point it's a level playing field. Thirdly, we're very proud of our achievements by our Disability Advisory Group, who have been operating since 1994. I think that's an impressive length of time for a volunteer group. This volunteer group provides advice to Council on matters relating to the recruitment and retention of people with disabilities. Their unique contribution was recognised by the Lord Mayor in 2009. They have been endlessly patient and determined advocates, redressing physical and technological accessibility problems, ensuring policies and practices create a level playing field. One simple example would be their determination to get the occupancy training and evacuation procedures suitable for people with disabilities. They support individuals struggling with an issue and finally, and most importantly in my opinion, they keep this crucial agenda on the radar. They have set up a web accessibility subgroup chaired by our Chief Information Officer, and these people tussle together with these often complicated and frustrating issues. They negotiated Council's commitment to funding sign interpreters for deaf residents, which was their latest achievement. So fourthly, we have a strong integrated employment program that links support and opportunities from caseworker activities for severely disadvantaged people through our social inclusion work placement initiatives through to our trainee, apprentice, graduate and employment programs. We actively look for appropriate people with disabilities in all our employment program recruitment drives. Last year, we were able to complete a work placement program specifically designed for people with disabilities, and that resulted in 4 of the 6 securing employment in the sort of work they wanted to do. So that was very satisfying for us. Our Participate in Prosperity caseworker assists 30 people with disabilities a year overcome significant blockages to being work ready, and then assists them secure their first step in the direction of employment. We're very grateful to both the state and federal for the funds and support they give us to keep these social inclusion activities going. We have a Working On program for recovering addicts, and our homeless employment program, which was a pilot we ran last year, and we now have funds to run a second program, inevitably includes people with a range of disabilities, particularly those with psychological disabilities. One thing we've learnt from all of this work in employment programs, that the key to success is the quality and capability and sensitivity of the supervisor, the direct supervisor that we're placing someone with. And that supervisor, we know, needs very ready access to an expert who can help them when they encounter difficulties. And the last but not least, we did have a very strong reasonable adjustment policy, and recently we updated that to meet the new legislation. So that supports a lot of the work that we're doing. So that's a bit of a snapshot. Now, where do we want to be? Essentially, we want to be a disability confident employer, and we want to be recognised as such by the disability community. We also want to achieve our target for representation of people with disabilities in our workforce, and we've set ourselves to achieve these within the life of our current equity and diversity framework, so we'll be busy leading up to 2015. So finally, what are we going to do to achieve this? So I have 4 things that I'd like to highlight. Firstly, we're in the last phase of completing our very first Brisbane Access and Inclusion Plan, which will go from 2012 to 2017. What a big job that's been. And I think the substantial effort by our community services people really shows in the current draft document. I've included the website on the material I've sent down for those of you who'd like to see it. This plan documents the extensive work done by Brisbane City Council currently and identifies our commitments into the future. Secondly, Brisbane City Council has allocated funds to me in this financial year to progress our commitments in the overall access and inclusion plan. Given the constricting employment opportunities in Brisbane City Council at present, we're focusing on, I've called the project, Building Career Foundations for People with Disability in the Brisbane City Council, and that will go till the end of June 2012. Now this money, you may be pleased to know, I'm very pleased, has been made available through the fines imposed for people who park in disability restricted spaces. I'll have 2 people I'll be able to bring on board to deliver an integrated workforce intervention that will have 3 major parts. Firstly, we want to create the preconditions so that when our current employment situation improves in the future, we can be ready. Things like building a competitive talent pool of people with disabilities, opening up areas who are willing and ready to take on someone with a disability, ensuring the divisions and business areas have plans in place, and extending our partnerships with external agencies who have a commitment in this area. Secondly, we're determined to build capability, and this will involve building up new work experience opportunities for people not yet working for us, and we'll be working with the Commonwealth Rehabilitation Service in the initial stages of that. Provide career coaching for people already working for us who have disabilities, and very importantly, building up the capability of our team leaders to handle that very important role effectively and confidently. Thirdly, stepping up to increase our numbers of people with a disability. So things that we'll be focusing on there are increasing our partnerships with recruitment agencies, greater use of our social inclusion feeder programs, an increased focus on young people with a disability, such as our school-based employment programs, which we already have running. And we have what's called our Prosperity Network, where we provide a free service to private companies in Brisbane to assist them to employ people who come from our various equity target groups, and we would be looking to use that network to assist find good work and appropriate work for people with disabilities over the next year. The third area we're focusing on is I've decided to implement 2 initiatives to improve the experience of staff who have mental health issues. We've done a lot of research in the past, and we're very confident we can pick a couple of initiatives that will really make a difference. I want to really focus internally on the experience of people already working for us before we consider initiatives to bring more people who have mental health issues into the organisation. And finally, I will continue our commitment to including people with disability in our employment programs, and we'll hopefully be able to consider running another specialised program in the new financial year for people with disabilities who are seeking employment. So that's a bit of a snapshot of what we're up to. I certainly don't feel that we're entitled to call ourselves best of the best. We don't think of ourselves that way, but we are very committed to try and crack this very hard challenge in front of us, and we will keep experimenting until we do. So good luck in your forum. I believe I may be able to answer some questions by phone, and I look forward to that. Otherwise, have a great forum, and good luck.